situation in Iraq's second largest city of Mosul. Report earlier from our correspondent Murad Ghazdiev there on the reconstruction efforts. We can get more now from Ralph El Hajj, the Red Cross regional spokesperson for the Middle East. Thanks for joining us. Good to have you on the programme. It's been more than 5 months now since Mosul was liberated, since operations finished. Obviously, any rebuilding process will take a long period of time, but are people managing to get their lives back on track?
Yes, good evening, Daniel. Sadly, we've seen the photos and the images on the report earlier. This is how the situation is, and unfortunately, thousands and millions of people around the world are not aware of what's happening in Mosul or how the city really looks like. People believe that once the battles are over, that the thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who fled Mosul and left their homes are able to come back. This is extremely wrong. The situation today is that hundreds of thousands, around 500 to 700,000 of people who fled Mosul are unable to go back because primarily there is extreme and grave danger to their lives when it comes to unexploded remnants of war. Bombs are everywhere, booby traps are everywhere. It is very difficult to go back because the services, the infrastructure has been totally damaged. There is no access to clean water in the city, there is no healthcare access, and let alone the markets that are needed to feed where people can buy their basic goods. That is not there at the moment. The problem is that people need to go back to the city of Mosul as soon as possible to rebuild. But unfortunately, there is some sort of, basically, the city is forgotten, as mentioned in the report, and humanitarian workers and organizations are working in the city. For instance, the Red Cross is back to the city of Mosul. We've opened an office there so that we are able to help the people on the ground, so that we are able to assess their needs firsthand. However, just like my colleague from the Norwegian Refugee Council was saying earlier, I have to say that all the humanitarian organizations present in Iraq and working in Mosul today are unable to deal with the humanitarian catastrophe that the city has witnessed. The city needs a lot of aid, and not one single humanitarian organization can really bring what is needed today to Mosul.
You mentioned there the work that you're carrying out, other NGOs as well, on the ground in Mosul, all over Iraq as well. But what obstacles do you face while working in such a difficult situation? What are the main challenges here?
Main challenges, of course, is to reach out to the people in need. Not many people have returned back to Mosul. The education industry or the sector is also in ruins. And there are children who have not been able to go back to school for over 3 years now, and now, especially in Mosul, are back to living in camps in the northeast and the east side of the city. There are challenges to bring back the people. They won't go back before their houses are rehabilitated. We are seeing the footage now on the screen. How can they possibly go back when the city has been almost wiped off the face of the earth? It's very difficult to go back. There is a lot of efforts that needs to be done by all parties involved, the authorities and humanitarian organizations, to help rebuild the city, at least primarily when it comes to infrastructure. Our part, as the International Committee of the Red Cross, we have started working with the medical facilities in the city and around the city, supporting them with medical supplies and medicine needed to treat the people who have decided to go back, so that they can have close and quick access to medical care. There is also a really big problem in the city, and also it was mentioned in the report, the management of the dead bodies who are lying around the city. There are thousands of people who went missing. They may still be under the rubble. And for that, unfortunately, the authorities and the morgues and hospitals that remain almost barely functioning in the city, cannot cope with the amount of dead bodies that are coming in. We are also supporting on that front, helping the authorities identify and properly manage the dead that are found in the city. If the dead are left to remain in the city, there may be spread of diseases coming soon to the city. So that's another challenge that also needs to be taken into consideration. Primarily also, or more importantly, is access to water. Throughout the battles, a lot of water pumping stations, or the main stations, have been also totally damaged or partially damaged to the extent that they no longer function. Without water, it is certain that disease such as cholera will also spread in the city if people go back without proper access to clean water.
It certainly sounds like a catastrophic situation, and best of luck to the Red Cross, other NGOs in trying to help those desperate people on the ground as best they can to the best of their abilities. Ralph El Hajj, their Red Cross spokesman for the Middle East, thanks for giving us that update on what's going on in Mosul.